Well, happy Sunday, as Morgan Snow said in the chat room, and welcome to another edition of It's Sunday. Now, for those of you who are new to this channel, those of you watching in other places, Sunday mornings is not the official Intrepid radio program. It's just a casual thing that we've been doing on Sunday mornings for the last few years. So, welcome. And get ready to chat with us if you want to talk about anything. And those of you who are already over in the chat room, Morgan Snow, Steph, Cuervo Queen, Roger Rabbit, all of you that are over there, welcome. Glad to have you here this morning. And let's see what we can do today. Have a little fun in here. And so, and if it's not fun, guess what? We just don't do it. So that's something I have said, by the way, of all the radio I do, all the magazine stuff I do, have done, all the different things I've been involved in. I say I do these because they're the things I like to do. It's fun for me. And the moment it stops becoming fun and enjoyable and something that enriches me, I'll be done with it and I'll just move on to something else. I am not so altruistic as to say, I only do this for your enjoyment. Although that is behind most of it. I'm trying to be entertaining and enjoyable at the same time. But hey, Daniel Ondra, I haven't seen you here for a while. Good to see you, brother. And so I do this for us. I do this for me. And once it becomes overwhelming or not fun, would be the time I'd say I got to move on and try something different. So all of you who are here, thanks for joining me this morning. I appreciate your presence here. It's Sunday, and what a wild week it's been. A while, of course. This is the kind of thing that always happens during political elections. It just gets, there's a point where you're so oversaturated with it that you say, I just want the election to be done and let's move on. That's kind of where I'm at. Daniel says you've been laying low, buddy. Hope you and the family are doing good. We are indeed, Daniel. Thank you. I appreciate that. Kendall Blanchard is here. Good morning. Seems I'm stuck in Ohio on a rainy day. I have no doubt of that. That's all that hurricane weather system moving up through the country. My daughters live in Charlotte, North Carolina, and one of them is closer to Lincolnton, which is about a half an hour outside of Charlotte. That's where they have their big warehouse and their studios for Finfolk Productions. And they're all pretty shut down up there. It's been raining. Charlotte has not been hit hard, but an hour and a half to the, I want to say it's the northwest, but I might be mistaken on the geography, was Asheville, where they used to have their company. Up until about 5-6 years ago, they moved into Charlotte, maybe a little longer ago than that, and bought this warehouse. Well, I just saw photos this morning. I was at their warehouse before they did any work to it. They had just purchased it in 2017. So that would be 7 years ago. They moved into Lincolnton and they bought that old 100-year-old warehouse building, an old mercantile building, very typical of the day and age, post-Civil War, Reconstruction era into the early 1900s. And they took this old brick building with the three, I think it's got 2 floors and a downstairs, but the main floor is where they do most of their work. All the old wood floors, and it had an old wooden freight elevator that was big enough to haul a car up and down, and a stairwell, and they had to take the elevator out, redo the stairwell. They had to update the HVAC. They had to put stairwell on the outside of the building. So they put a big fancy one on the outside, and they've done all this work on it. They poured about $350,000 into a building that they paid about $90,000 for back in 2017, and that place is just glorious. But they've also kept it as pristine historically as they possibly could. It's still got the old original doors on it, the big old wood doors on the front, the wood floors, everything is as pristine as they could make it. So anyway, they are up. Thank goodness that didn't get hit with the storms up there. But we know a lot of people down there that are, they have relatives down there. I think their in-laws, Bryn's, was it Bryn's in-laws? No, they're in South Carolina. Abby's in-laws are up staying with them in a trailer from Asheville. And their grandmother they haven't had any contact with. And she lives down in Asheville, which got hit really hard. And they've got pictures somebody sent them of the road that goes up to the grandmother's. It's all a flood. They have not heard from her. There's no electricity. There's no anything like that. So Dakota, my son-in-law, Abby, he's going to be going down there as soon as he possibly can. They have restrictions. There's no way for them to even travel down there right now to check on her physically. So they're doing everything they can to find out what's going on there. Hi. Here's Ellery. Say good morning.
Hi.
How you doing? What wonderful hair you have.
Hi.
I actually like your hair. It looks good, big and thick and messy like that. She's got the thick hair of her mom, as you can tell. So, what's up? Did you just come to say hi? Or is something going on?
I haven't done.
You haven't done what?
I haven't done.
A
That's
donut? Upstairs. I hope it's not sitting where the dog can get it. Okay.
In the microwave because it was kind of stale.
Oh, kind of stale. Well, they're 2 days old now.
Well, kind of hot. Like
that. Yeah. So you stick your donut in the microwave for a few seconds, and it'll lighten it up. But we're foster caring a dog that is she's a, what is she again?
She's a Boston Terrier.
Boston Terrier.
Beagle mix.
Beagle. I don't know how they get Beagle into that dog because it's so small, but that dog's a terror. She's 6 years old and has never, ever been trained. And so we have had her for about a month. Okay, well, you go eat your donut.
I fell asleep on a chair last night outside.
Did you fall at the fire outside?
Yeah, I fell asleep. Did
Mom leave you there? Did you wake up there this morning? Well, that's good. At least Mom woke you up and brought you in the house. So, we had a big bonfire last night in the back. So that was fun. So think of all the people down in Asheville. Good friend of mine, Micah Hanks, who many of you may know. He has the Graylian Report. And Micah Hanks, just look him up. Micah, M-I-C-A-H, Hanks, and .com, I believe it is. And you'll see all about Micah if you don't know who he is. Book writer, author, an intellectual, and a futurist. So you would, if you don't know him, you'd really enjoy his stuff. But he's down in Asheville, and I text messaged him. No way to know if he got it. There's no way of knowing anything yet because everybody's out of power. Nobody can get in and out. I think obviously teams of workers that are down there trying to find people, help people. That's all we know so far. So keep them in your thoughts, your prayers. And there's also something else I wanted to, and I've got to look it up to get the particulars here. But I talked to John Penman yesterday. If you remember John Penman of Penman Hats. And there is a, I don't know if it's a Kickstarter or if it's a GoFundMe. Let's see. The Penman Hat Company that they put up for somebody who is, and I'm not seeing it on here this time. There's a little girl. She's 9 years old, same age as my daughter, who has some terminal thing going on, and with her health. I don't know the particulars off the top of my head, But John is putting up hats that he's custom made, which usually cost, if you buy some of these hats, they're anywhere from $200 to $300 on the low side, depending on the style of hat you're getting, up to you can spend $600-700 on some of his fedoras. He's putting up hats to help people with this GoFundMe, and I'm looking to see if, wow, there's a lot of my pictures up there because I post things to John Penman's site. I tag him in a lot of posts. And I am just not seeing it here. I'm wondering if John has it on his own page, but it would be greatly helpful if you wanted to help with this. And if you're looking for a hat and you wanted to buy a hat, now is a good time to get one. Because and to donate to a good cause. And now I am not seeing it on any of his pages. So John, if you're listening, if you could send me a text or a link, or if anybody over at Penman Hats, it's only John and somebody else, I think it's his son, are working on his hats. Come on over and send me a post and let me know what's going on. But you can check him out on Facebook. You can find him on Instagram. You can find Penman Hats. I've seen some things about this somewhere, but over the last few weeks, but I'm not finding anything specific about this. Let's see. Here it is. It's on his Instagram. It's Amelia. Give Amelia more time with her loved ones. John's been trying to raise $50,000 through Penman Hats. I don't know if it's maybe not him solely that put this up. John says, hello, everyone. A friend of mine just got devastating news. His 10-year-old daughter has a fatal brain tumor. Please follow the link and help in any way you can. So I am going to post this link in the chat room. If you're listening over on Instagram and you can see the show, or Facebook, you're not going to see this post because it's over in the chat room. I have posted links to show you all how to get to the chat room for this show. It's over on my YouTube channel, because Facebook and Instagram and X and all those, well, you can watch the show over there. I think even on Patreon, you can watch the show, but there's not an active chat room that clicks in or links up to the show on those sources. So if you want to join the chat room just for conversation, if you want to see this link, there it is. Somebody here that's one of our listeners, at least one person, maybe two, somebody messaged me a couple of weeks ago and said they bought a hat that's going to help with this Kickstarter. John called me yesterday, and the first thing he said was, thank you. And I wasn't sure what for, and he was thanking me for putting the word out. And some of our listeners that are also fans of his have donated to that cause, and he's made a couple of hats for them. And so if you want to help, I know, here it is. This is the deal. We all have friends and family that go through things like this. I could not imagine functioning if my own 9-year-old, almost 10-year-old daughter, we found that she had a fatal brain tumor, inoperable, terminal. My wife, any of my kids, I tear up thinking about the hypothetical of it. I don't even want to. And so we all have people in our lives that we've lost, that we're losing. And our money is so tight these days. But if you are led or drawn to help out for this little girl, there's the link I gave you to their GoFundMe. You can read about the situation. And, um, don't do it if you can't, obviously. If you got a couple of bucks, you can throw that in. If you can do more than that, do that. But you've got to be led to do that. You've got to feel that in your own heart. So if you have the ability to do anything, there it is. And I leave you that link so you can make that decision. Yeah, it is terrible, Daniel. And John was yesterday almost beside himself just talking to me as how he's gone through his own health issues. That's why he was gone for a couple of years and nobody saw him. And he is almost beside himself with grief for his friend. He says, "You know me, Scotty." He says, "I'm not a physical, touchy-feely person." And he says, "I generally keep my distance." And he says, "I've always been that way." And he said, "This man, when he's going through this the other day," and he says, "I just put my arms around him and gave him a hug." And he says, "It's the longest I have ever hugged anybody in my adult life that I can think of. I just couldn't let go." And he is so devastated over the loss of this young person, the pending loss. It would be, I think, miraculous, from what I understand from John, if she were to survive this. It would have to be miraculous because it's already been, they're looking to put her into hospice, make all your preparations and so on and so on. And so, and this is a 9-year-old girl or 10-year-old girl that John said some of the things she has said. He says, yes, she's questioned, why is this happening to me? Will I ever see, will I grow up? Will I do? You think of those things, and that's a really heart-wrenching thing to go through. So I don't know how well she's doing. I think her dad and her family are doing a lot worse. Even though she's 10 and she's the one that's not going to be here for very much longer, her family is absolutely devastated. So anything you can do that helps them out over on their GoFundMe, go take a look. And if guys, women too, because John makes fedoras aren't just for men. John makes hats for everyone. And he has been willing to put up, I have to go the particulars of the GoFundMe, but at certain levels, he's willing to make a hat for you. And John is probably the best hat maker in the country. So, Roger says, if people really knew how many kids were out there with limited time, people would be devastated. I started out parenthood being told to expect an earlier end. My heart is so heavy for them. And ours is for you too, Roger. We keep a happy face because of the pictures you send us of Kinsey and all that stuff. Have you? And I know you have, but if I were you, I know how it would devastate me to be in your position. Thinking, when is the next day coming? When is the next day not going to be here? And I could not imagine living that way. I fear being told this thing about Kinsey's doctors one day. Yeah. And that's very sad. And there's nothing I can say or anybody can say that makes that better or feel better other than I love you, brother, and we're here with you. And so Roger experiencing this full on personally, and also Carly. So, and we all deal with things in our different ways, but imagine if that were one of yours, and if you have a possibility, a chance, an opportunity to help a family, Roger's family, Roger and Carly, man, they could use your help. And Roger, I know you aren't out here asking anybody to do that. But any way you can help them out. This family you don't even know, friends of John Penman's, I don't even know them. So I couldn't imagine being in that place. And if it were me in your place, Roger, I'm sure you rise to occasions. You had to after the birth of Kinsey. You had to rise, and that's been the last decade of your life, is totally dedicated to your child. Imagine that day that comes when that's not there anymore. And all of a sudden, it's silent. I could not live that way. Yeah, we all rise to occasions, as I said, but I cry when my child gets stung by a bee because they're hurting. I remember that at the Renaissance Festival years ago, 20 years ago. Abby got stung by a bee, or maybe it was Bryn. I don't remember which. And they were crying, and it made me cry. I can't stand their pain. And so, man, my heart's with you, Roger. So, anyway, as far as John Penman goes, there's that link. It's in the chat room. If any of you wants to help out in any way that you can, there it is. I'm going to paste it over on the Instagram. That is the GoFundMe for this young girl. Amelia is her name. So, there it is, folks. We'll leave that there. And we'll move on to some other things. Unless you all have things, you can't fix them, Steph. That's the thing. There's nothing you can do to fix them. And guys especially, not that moms don't have moms have the motherly mother bear instinct. Guys have the, I have to be the fixer. And when we can't fix, it's horrendous. It's just the way we're put together. So there you go, folks. Let's leave that at that. If you want to talk about that, you can call in. If you want to talk about any of this stuff, if you got other things on your mind, even politics, which seems so banal compared to this kind of thing. This morning, I saw a post of a friend of mine that I went to high school with. And in all the midst of all this political bullshit we have to put up with, and some of it's necessary bullshit, don't get me wrong. But especially, and here's what I wrote. He put up this post, and it's one of those Bible verses in a meme, pretty picture type of thing. Golden field with fence posts and trees and mistiness and the sunshine. And, I usually scroll past those pretty quick. I'm not one for throwing up memes about Bible verses and so on. I just don't do that. But I wrote, in a time where there seems to be an overabundance of criticism of Old Testament Levitical law. I see those all the time, by the way. Posts from people, hey, look what they did. I can't believe if this was a real God, he wouldn't do this. Things like that. And I see them all the time. Some of them I respond to, and I say, well, take it in context. And yeah, I agree with you. Some of this stuff was pretty weird. And you've got to divide out what was divine law versus what was man's appropriating divine law, so on. But I said, this is a reminder of one of the most treasured blessings that was found in those same pages where you find Levitical law. It says, and in this day and age, and the way we are divided in our country here in the West, all the things going on. This is a verse. It's in Numbers chapter 6, verses 24 through 26. It says, and you've heard it, I'm sure. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face shine on you and be gracious to you. the Lord turn his face toward you and give you peace. Now, nowadays, we don't say lots of things like that unless it's historical and we're quoting an old thing. But keep in mind the context of how people believed 2,000 and 3,000 years ago. This would have been almost 4,000 years ago, 3,500 years ago when this was written. And the way they saw God and understood God. May the Lord turn his face toward you. May he give you peace. Remember, in context with their religion, this was a time where God, you could not see the face of God and live, according to the writings of Moses in these same books, the book of Numbers. No man can see God's face and live because of his holiness, his divinity, is all the different things that are put on them. Yet this is a verse that says, you will find peace if the Lord will turn his face toward you and give you peace. Daniel says, just know when it's their time, God will take them in his hands and he will be taking care of them. Yeah, I think it's a sad thing to acknowledge, but if you want to put it in the context of heaven, a place, think of eternity, the afterlife. How much of it is inhabited by children or the spirits of people who were taken or died as children? Now, my guess is they are mature spirits in the afterlife. But I don't know. It's in paranormal investigating. How many times do we think we're running into spirits of children or residual or EVPs saying, "Are you my mom? Where's my mom?" I had an experience at the what was the name of this place? It's in Sauk Center, Minnesota. The I don't know why I'm not thinking of the name of the hotel. Old hotel. Sinclair Lewis used to frequent the place. It's that old, and we did a lot of investigating there over the years. And why I can't think why the name of the place is the Palmer House in Sauk Center. And we were there doing some filming back in 2008. 2007 or 2008. We were filming with a crew of people. Uncle Dave was there. He was operating cameras, and he was also participating in the filming. Nikki Jones, Nikki Crew Jones, and several people. Raini was there, of course, and I'm not sure if Sarah Harmon was there. I can't remember. She was there. Lisa Hottinger was there. If any of you are listening, I don't want to miss anybody, but we did some filming, and we were in a room where it was said that a young girl, the spirit of a young girl, was in there. And we were reaching out, and I was, at one moment, absolutely overwhelmed with sadness. And I started to cry. And I know it's a stretch for me, right? But we got the impression of, and the person who was there, who was our psychic medium, that was there, part of the team. She saw there was a little girl dressed in Victorian to Edwardian age, sitting at the window, looking out, waiting for her father to return. I don't remember the details of her passing. I don't think we even know them, but that she had died, and before she saw him. And this spirit reached out via EVP and also through our medium. And as I was talking and trying to, I said, "Look, I'm a dad. And I said, if you would like to talk to us, I'd love to know a little bit more about you, why you're here. And through the EVP, a little girl's voice said, Daddy. And I don't know if that was directed at me or if it was she was looking for her daddy still, but those are the kinds of things that will grip you in those settings. So, being a dad is part of who men are, if you're a dad. There are some men that are jerks and are supposed to be dads, and they're not. And there's times I question my abilities to be a good dad. Roger said, that's the one of the only things that brings me peace, knowing their struggles here are only temporary. This time we physically experience is only a blip of our existence. And that's true. And so much has been said, and in church circles especially, I think of my ministry days and all the children that we saw pass. Twin kids of friends of mine died in the first few days that they were born. And other people I knew lost children and babies and all along the way. Now we got the other child. We're just speaking of children. There's Rowan. What's up?
Well,
She got a mouthful of food. First rule of radio, don't come on radio with a mouthful of food.
it was a donut.
What's going on?
So
Quickly. I need you to take this up and warm that up for me, please.
on October 3rd,
So you're coming up with calendar events while I'm doing a show.
you're gonna want to hear it.
Okay.
On October 3rd at 8 p.m., we're going to
You keep moving further off the camera. Step this way.
Mankato, Minnesota, to go watch.
Mankato?
Yeah, to go watch the Sam and Colby movie.
Why do we have to drive 2 hours away to watch
It's
a
only
movie?
in Cinemark movie theaters.
There's Cinemarks in the cities.
That is the cities.
Mankato is not the
It's
cities.
the closest one to us.
Mankato is 2 hours southwest of the cities. And the cities are an hour from us. So that could be a 3-hour trek
Look,
each way.
that one's in.
I don't have my
Hills,
glasses on. I can't
and it's
see it.
at 8 p.m. Okay.
You'll find out. You can look it up somewhere else. Sam and Colby, her favorite ghost hunters. If you've never seen them, Sam and Colby, you can go look them up on YouTube. Very successful. They were just on Joe Rogan not long ago. They've done well. They started as teenagers. They're now in their mid-20s and doing rather well, I can imagine. They've traveled all over the world with this, so they got a movie coming out.
There's only handicapped seats left, so we can pretend.
Yeah, well, we'll find a theater locally. How about that?
No, we won't.
We will. It'll show locally. So there you go. There's your familial. Yes, you remember that, Roger. She's masticating live on air, John Ward style. You remember that? Rocky and John and I were doing the not war room. What did we call it? The Situation Room was our radio show. We talked politics and tomfoolery and paranormal and stuff. And we came on air, and John starts. He's eating chips. He's munching chips online or on air live. And we're like, yo, brother, what are you doing? And Rocky looks dumbfounded over at him. We're on air. And John says, I'm masticating. Which is just a fancy word for chewing out loud. So it's funny that you remember that, Roger. That was a while back. That's got to be 7 years ago at least. So John masticating on air. And if I did not mention this on the show, I don't think she forgot my coffee. She forgot to go warm up my coffee. Rowan, come here. That's my fancy intercom system here in the house. So you forgot my cup. You go warm that up, please.
What if you go do it?
Because I'm doing radio.
I need to get ready.
Well, you interrupted.
Well, I don't care.
Go warm that up. Yeah, you don't care.
I'm not bringing it back down.
Yeah, you need to. You need to bring it back down. 1 minute. Just throw it in the microwave for a minute. My coffee got cold. So, I don't remember what I was talking about. John Ward masticating. Oh, I called John. John and I talked the other day, and as many of you know, John is in rough shape too. He's not doing well. And remember last year he had cancer. He had lung cancer, and they did all the chemo. He didn't lose any of his hair. They did something. I don't know what the other procedures they did, but it's not as available here in the States. But they live in Sweden, and they're off season. They got a little 5-acre farmstead in Sweden when they're not in Egypt. And so in Sweden, through the healthcare there, he had some kind of other thing going on as well. And it all went into remission. He was doing fine. He even went back this last year. They went back and did another season in Egypt. But I remember at the end of the season, he did a couple of videos where he was talking about things. They were taking a couple of days at the hotel up in Luxor, and it might have been Cairo, but sitting around the swimming pool, and he just seemed tired. He was talking like this about this and that political thing and so on and so on. And I thought, man, he looks tired. I wonder if it's just because he went through all these treatments this last year. Well, Maria had put up a post, if you don't know this, folks, that John, the cancer is resurfaced. Sorry. Whoa. The cancer has resurfaced, and it is also spread into his brain, which doesn't sound good at all. Maria sounded emotionally distraught, which is a first for me, seeing her in that kind of situation. I have not even talked to her since this all started. This is a couple of months ago now. Not even. And so I sent a couple of messages. She said to everybody, she said, don't call or anything. You know, we'll reach out to you. And John and I finally connected just the other day and earlier this week. And he was sitting far back from the camera, probably about this far back, in a chair in the living room, and you could see the light coming in. Thank you. I appreciate that. You're wonderful that way.
You're gonna need a tip.
Yeah, the tip, we take you to the places you need to go.
And actually,
Your tip was all your power drinks for volleyball.
well, I'm gonna need more. But
you got those 4. We got those 4 for you. 6, 8 yesterday for you.
well, I drank 2 of them.
Well, you got 6 left over for tomorrow.
But by the way, the only
Still
cinema
talking.
theater is either we have the one 2 hours away, or we have the one rest away, or we have the one 2 hours away, or we have one 7 hours away. And then the rest of all the movie theaters in the city are Cinemax theaters, not the other ones.
Not all the theaters.
Yes, they are. Me and Mom just looked it up. Don't argue with me. I will fight you.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
We'll see.
I need to go to the Dollar General later.
You need something?
I need food for tomorrow.
Why didn't we get that when we went out to get your other stuff?
Because at that time I just wanted
Because I didn't think of it back then. I got to think of things every day to get you to spend money on me and take me places. Get out of here. I'll see you afterwards. We'll talk about it later.
I won't be here until 6.
Oh, you're going to the football game?
Baseball game.
Oh, baseball game. Whose baseball game? And my phone rings. I'll bet you it's spam. Oh, it's Andy Dabbs. I can't take Andy's call right now. So, Andy, I don't know if you're there, but I am on radio. So I will, I'll just message him real quick, folks, so he knows. I'm working on some stuff for him. After radio, 11 o'clock. All right. So, there, interruptions, friends, family. It's what we do. So, I don't remember what the heck I was talking about before I was interrupted. But, John Ward. So I talked to him earlier in the week, and he was sitting way back. It's like he had it hooked up, and maybe just the lens of the camera makes it look like he was further away than he was. But his head was totally shaved, bald, and still had his facial hair. And but we're talking, and he was very. I found John to be very. He was his himself, but there wasn't a lot of the joking and the quipping and the your mother's a hamster and your father smells of elderberries, etc. type of talk. Oh, hey, brother, and and we talked and not a super long talk, but he was telling me a bit how this has affected him. The tumor in the brain, they're working on reducing that and getting rid of it, which is survivable. It's that it's spread is what makes it worrisome. But he said it's really affected the sight in one of his eyes. That he either doesn't see out of it or his sight is very bad because of the position of the tumor, things it's affecting. His hearing on the same side is gone. And he said his legs are not working very well. He says, I can't really walk. He says, I can shuffle across the room. But keep in mind, this is John who could hop like a mountain goat or a gazelle out in Egypt. I remember times there's one good story I have of John where we had just walked through. Now remember Gebel El Silsila, which is their site. Maria's the mission director there. It's approximately a 23-mile square slice of desert down about 100 miles south of Luxor. If you look at the map, you can find it. Gebel, Gebel, Lel, Silsila, Silsila, Gebel El Silsila, and you can see their site right from Google Earth. But we went way out. We were looking at old Roman ruins of an old Roman fort, small fort that was on a little hilltop above a Roman road that had curbs. You couldn't see it walking through the desert. You'd probably miss it. But you could see it from Google Earth, and you could see it when John pointed it out. There were curbs running at least a mile and a half or so off of what is now the main tarmac road, asphalt road. And the old Roman road beneath it ran up north, and you could see it. And there was a little bridge over a little section that was built up, probably a little wash that would go underneath it, tiny, and up on there. But we came walking, we walked back around, and he wanted to show me an inscription on one of the walls. Now, there's a little village there and activity. There's a modern road, but on the site there was this these rocky outcrops, and he says some of this has been worked, and he brought me over and showed me, and he had to clear it a little bit down at the ground, cleared some sand away, and there was the cartouche, the name of Tutankhamun, King Tut, down there. That his dynasty or his under him they had quarried there, and his name was on it. And yeah, Morgan, the Romans, we should have them doing our road work today. So we as we came out of that little area, it's hard to describe. It's just the main roads over there, the village, and a bunch of trees and stuff, palm trees, and we're in this little swath of sandy desert in the quarry here, and where they had quarried stone. And there is the cartouche of King Tut, along with a bunch of other hieroglyphs, and it was partially covered by sand. And he said, one of these days, and then he kicked the sand back over it. He says, one of these days we'll come over here and we'll excavate this. And so as we're coming back out, there's a big hill that went up to the road. And I've told this story at least once before, but it's like we were down in the gully down here in the desert, and the road was a little elevated, and it was really elevated over here. And there's a big hill that went up almost at this angle. I mean, it was quite steep. And it was all dirt that they had pushed over years ago from building the road. And so John says, we're standing at the bottom. And he says, I'll race you to the top, brother. And it had to be 100 yards to get to the top. Maybe 75. And it was loose dirt. It was like sand duney type of consistency. And I said, you're on. This was back in either 2013 or 2014. I want to say it was 2013. This is 11 years ago. And so Maria was taking pictures of it, and she's laughing. And John's is lithe, sprightly, and, me, it was what I am now, not so fat. And so we started running up that hill. And man, if you ever run in sand dunes, that's what it was. We're running, just sludging up through this thing. And we were neck and neck until about 3/4 of the way up. John surged ahead of me. He's used to this. He does this every day. And as we got to the top, he got to the top where there's the little guardrail for the road. And I'm sludging up. I'm about 10 feet behind him. And I'm like, oh my God, I am not going to make this. And he steps out and he throws out a hand. He goes, take my hand, brother. And I take his hand and he pulls me up the rest of the way. And we're laughing, just totally from running up that. But this is what John was all the time. Very physically fit. And he told me one story once where I wasn't there this time, but there were looters would come in and start chiseling away at inscriptions because some imam told them there's gold behind that. And John told me this particular site where they're destroying hieroglyphs that are 3,000, 4,000 years old with chisels because they think it's a panel that's covering a cave full of riches. And John says, all that's behind, it's carved into the bedrock that's sticking up. And he says, there's nothing behind it. They could chisel forever and reach nothing but more rock. And so they're out with a couple of people, and I think the guy that was part of the inspectorate there at Komombo, and they hear this tink, 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 tink off in the distance. John's like, somebody is down in that quarry and they're defacing. And it's just locals. It's villagers. It's Egyptians. It's not some big operation. Just somebody who thought that there was gold there somewhere, which there wasn't. And so John says, I snuck up and we came around. He says, and one of them was the not really a sheriff, but like a constable. And he had a gun. Oh, he had a gun, like a 38 or something. And John says, I'm like, put that away. He says he's just so anxious to use his gun. And like a Barney Fife type of thing. And so John says, I snuck up and I'm over the top of where they are, and they're down about 10 or 15 feet. He says, and they're tink, 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 tink with chisels and hammers, tinking away at this. And he says, brother, he says, I felt like a ninja. He says, I just wanted to have black face paint where I could go, whoa. And he said, he got up and he went, rah, and he leapt off this cliff down on top of these guys and took them down. And they just about shit their pants. And of course, the constable comes around, and I think he fired his gun into the air because he could. Just like, put that thing away. And well, they arrest the guys, of course, for destroying antiquities. And later that afternoon, John sees them out walking around. So they're let loose. You know, what do you do? It's a little village in Egypt. So that's some good stories. But John, being physically fit his whole life, lithe musculature, you know, skinny as shit. And to see him and hear him explain that, you know, he just can't walk right anymore. But he told me, he says, they've given me, I asked him, I said, if this is all successful, will you regain the eyesight and the ear, the hearing and the walking and so on? And he says, they give me a 95% positive chance that this will all recover. Well, that's good. So let's say your prayers for John as well. I know he would crave them at this point. He said, so far it hasn't affected his arms or his hands. He said, he can still type. He can do things. He was actually, Maria had to step out. And he was there at the house with the kids. He was watching the kids. So he said he had to go do something for the kids. He had to shuffle over to the kitchen and do something. And so he's at least able to function that way. And he's undergoing all these treatments. He's now bald as a cue ball. And hopefully that will come back too. And so there you go. John Ward. That's what's going on with John. Those of you who know John through my exploits and my adventures with him and all the things we've done. And it's sad to see him in this state. So keep him in your thoughts and prayers. There you go. Well, that's where this show has gone so far. Anybody want to call in and you want to talk about anything? It doesn't even have to be about this stuff. It can be about other things. And here is the link to the chat room. Those of you over on Instagram, I will also put the link. Hey, Roy Palvido, I see you over there. Burton and Stanley Booksellers over on the Instagram page. Here is the chat room link if you'd like to come in. Tule Paulo Tool. It's good to see you over there. And I hope you're still there, and I hope you're enjoying the show. And over on Instagram. And anybody else who wants to see it, it posted for me everywhere because I'm the master of ceremony, so to speak. I'm the host. But if you see that link and you want to call in, you can call in right into this show. You can come in audibly, or you can come in just on your audio only. If you don't want to show a picture, that's fine. Or a camera, like I do. So come on in if you want to chat. It's now, we're 1 hour in, just about, shy by about 3 minutes of being 1 hour in. So what's on your minds today? And you know, if we all listed our friends and family that are infirmed, or people we know that are infirmed or terminal, or people who've passed on, the list would go on. Every one of us here is affected by this stuff. And so I am not unique. I just happen to be in front of the camera talking. By the way, I do want to mention something that this is interesting. You remember I've told you total shift of topic, but I've told you a few times on this show about my friend who was falsely accused of rape. Hey, good morning, Andy Dabbs. Everybody say good morning to Andy. My good friend, Andy Dabbs. And I would call him a client, but he's my friend before he's my client. So there he is. Good morning, everybody, he says. Do you remember I told you a while back about a friend of mine, and it's okay to use his name, Carr Hagerman, who was falsely accused of rape. And Carr was a permanent fixture, you could say, at the Minnesota Renaissance Festival. He grew up there as a kid. He's a year or two older than I am. So he'd been there for 50 years. And one of the most brilliant entertainers out there. He played a character called the Rat Catcher. Any of you local that have gone to the Minnesota Renaissance Festival before 4 or 5 years ago would know who he was. And great street entertainer. And I've talked to you at great length about what he instilled in me and the entertainers out there. He wrote a book on it, business books. He's part of the, you could put Carr was up there with the Garrison Keillors of Minnesota. Intelligent, what would you call them? The intelligent upper crust, so to speak. Lots of things written about him, newspaper articles and all of that. And of course, his roles at the Renaissance Festival. And he used his street entertainment to say, this is what you can do in business. A top entertainer, I think was the name of his book. And he went out and he did tours with this, with groups of people. And he also was flown around the world. I've mentioned he was flown to Guinness brewery in Ireland and was brought there to do this business presentation of being a top performer in your company. That kind of thing. Elite. There's a good. Hey, Alyssa. Good to see you. Alyssa, I know because she was a dear friend of my mom's. Lived at my mom's house a long time. And I've known her for years. She was a big part of, I think I've known you, Alyssa, for 30 years. Believe it or not, at this point. And so, yeah, he was part of the elite, so to speak. And Carr Hagerman. And then, of course, somebody came along, accused him of rape at the Minnesota Renaissance Festival. I'm not going to go into the particulars again, but it was false. You know, people say, well, you never know somebody. Well, I knew Carr for over 20 years at that point, and I got to tell you something. Carr is not a rapist. I said that at the time. It all came out during the same time that the Kavanaugh hearings were going on and the Me Too movement started. So Carr got his whole case got swung up into that whirlwind of nonsense. And, of course, he had to go to trial, and there was a bunch of women at the festival that were standing against him and promoting this. And of course, everybody, like the bandwagon likes to do, like lynch mobs like to do, everybody hopped on the bandwagon. And all the posts on the social media and all this stuff associated with the festival were all about Carr Hagerman, the rapist. And 90% of those people didn't even know who he was. Oh, he should be executed, the kind of talk that was going on. I believe her, is what everybody became the thing. I believe her. And I got on there and I said, I made no bones about saying things and standing up for my friend. And I backed down to no one. I wasn't going to be herded over by this bunch of idiots who didn't know any better. But I was being called somebody who supports rapists. I'm simping for the rapist and things like that. And I'm like, yeah, shut up and fuck yourself. But I said it professionally. Because, social media, what is it? You say something like that. Oh, that's all you're going to. Anyway, so I got into some big conversations online when this was all going on. And I told everybody, basically, I said, hey, you need to shut up. Unless you have evidence and facts in hand. I said, well, she said so. I said, so? But remember, that was the philosophy of the day. If you say so, well, if a woman says it happened, it had to have happened. A woman wouldn't lie about this. And I said, well, obviously they do, because I know in this case it didn't happen. And it was a young woman. Carr didn't even know who she was. But it was being pushed by people that didn't like Carr politically at the festival. That's how big the festival is for people that go out there. It becomes their whole life. And this person who was really pushing it, I don't even want to get into who she was, but friends of theirs, Carr and his wife. And there were people I knew that used to hang. It used to be Carr and this guy and me. We used to do a lot of hanging out together. And he had a very high-profile role out at the festival, to say the least. And I confronted him. It was his wife that was pushing it, and he was behind it. And I said, what you're doing is evil. And his response to me was like, evil? Come on, Scotty. That's a little extreme. And I said, as well as I do that I'm going to get a little crass here, folks. You got kids around. I said, as well as I do that Carr did not do this. And I said, the only reason you're standing against him is because you're the woman you're fucking. Sorry to be that crass, folks. If you're an advertiser, don't let that turn you off. Just crass talk. I said, I said, where your bread's buttered, and you better toe the line there, or it's not going to happen for you. And we ended up not really parting ways, but parting ways. I said, look, I stand for my friends. I said, as well as I do. And I said to him point blank, because he is well known, had been for years, of being an incredible womanizer out there. And he was married to somebody else at the time when I knew him and hung with him out there. And it was kind of a public secret out there, and everybody, wink, wink, nudge, nudge. During festival, a different woman in his trailer every night kind of thing. And he was a good looking guy and all of this stuff. And so I said, as well as I do that if any of us were held to the same standard, I said, you especially, you would fall. I said, this is nonsense, and you know it, and you need to take a stand against it. But you can't because of who's in your bed, which is sad. But all of that to say this is that my friend Carr went through this whole thing. And, of course, eventually it was all dismissed. Dismissed with prejudice, meaning this can never be brought up again or refiled. Now, the only reason I'm bringing this up, and by the way, that was a jury of his peers that found him not guilty. 75% of the 12, so 8 of the 12 were women, 4 were men. They found him not guilty in almost a heartbeat. After listening to her testimony, the changing stories, the time, and this is important, the time that she said he did this during the day at a festival, on a festival day, in a certain place at the festival, was an impossible place and impossible for the number of people that would have been through that place. So she changed her story, changed the time. Then they find, and this was one of the best things, during the trial, Carr's attorney asked the investigator, just a guy from the festival that established himself as the guy who's going to investigate all this. And the attorney asked him, so you've seen the videos then of Carr on that afternoon? And he kind of went blank. He says, no, I haven't seen any videos. She said, aren't you the investigator? Did you not look at the videos that were taken and shared publicly and are still accessible on the Renaissance Festival site? No. And there were videos where all that afternoon, Carr had been doing live streams from all the different stages where some of the stage shows go on at the festival, inviting the public to come on down to the Minnesota Renaissance Festival. Right now we have the Tortuga Twins doing this, or we have this show going on over here, or whatever. And after she had changed the time and changed her story, it ends up, because it couldn't have happened at the time she originally said, in the place she originally said, then she changed that, and then they show that, well, during those times, all that afternoon, Carr was doing videos to the live public. And so everything was contradicted. I'll tell you something a little dirtier and coarser here, is that in the trial, Carr's attorney asked the plaintiff, the woman who's claiming that he had raped her, she said, how many times, now this is sensitive, folks, how many times did he ejaculate during this rape? She said 5 times. He came 5 times. Carr said, he kind of looked at the jury and he says, almost every man on the jury, 4 of them, he says he saw their reaction. They looked at him like, acquittal, please. That just doesn't happen. And so it was a whole comedy of disinformation, errors. The only caveat I'll give this young woman is that she had tried this before with other people, a pastor in her hometown and something like that. So I have heard. I don't have definitive proof of that, but there was other people that she had tried. She also is not emotionally, mentally stable to be doing this sort of thing. And also, there was a huge payout from the festival's insurance to her. I don't have inside scoop on that. Maybe it's not mine to tell, but I think all of this, and I would reveal some of this to the people that were arguing Carr's. I said, that's a lot of motivation to lie. And the people that were behind her also got payouts from it. And they got Carr removed from his position. The festival officially had to take him out of his positions, creative director, actor on the street, ban him from the site, but privately said they supported him, that they knew it wasn't true, but they had to go along with the political charade. So anyway, all of that to say, he is vindicated. But there's a reason I bring that up. And I've so rabbit trailed, I got to get back to why I wanted to mention this. There was all these posts that were going on at the time, a few years ago, about him. And I was part of the festival community. You don't belong here. Why are you talking? I said, I'm part of the community, are I not? Am I not? And I said, you all want to see him. You all want to act as his judge, his jury, and his executioner. And none of you knows the facts. Well, you don't know the facts. I said, I know him better than you do. I said, how many people here have talked to him? How many people are friends of his? How many people have talked to the woman and are friends of hers? I said, I haven't talked to the woman, but I've talked to the man who's my friend. And I said, this is not in his character wheelhouse to do something like this. So, and he had things going against him too that people were trying to use. Carr's a photographer. He's done a lot of the young women at Fest that wanted to have my own daughters He did photography portfolios for them. My own daughters said he was the most gentlemanly person we've ever had taking pictures. And that's the way he was. So, but, he takes nude pictures of people out here. He takes nudes of people for photography's sake. You can go see his site is still there, and he still puts up stuff now. He's just starting to get back into some of this. And he does a lot of other photography. He's not just photography of nudes. Leonard Nimoy published a whole book of nudes. His photography. The guy who played Spock, called Shekinah. So it's not, people were using that. Oh, see, he takes nude pictures of people. He must be a rapist. So everybody who takes nude shots of people is a rapist, I would say to them. I said, you people are skewed. And so I did I stood up for him through this whole thing. And I said, do you realize everything you're saying is your opinion? You don't have any hands-on facts. Now, just yesterday, it popped up in my memories. These conversations from years ago. And some hippie-looking dude was telling me, yeah, you don't have anything good to say. You're just one of those fedora-wearing YouTube douchebags. So I said, really? I'm a douchebag? I said, I take umbrage. I am not. I can't remember how I said it now. I was messing with him. And I responded to him yesterday because I just saw it. And I said, look, the only reason I'm even talking here, I said, is because you had a big bunch of bullshit to say about me years ago. And I said, and let's set the record straight here. And so I said a couple of things. And I said, am I on YouTube? Sure. I said, but the way you're characterizing it, I said, I would much prefer to see myself as a 5-time published author who has owned and published his own magazine, worked for a large television entity as the editor-in-chief of their magazine, had a career that spans almost 40 years in advertising and publishing, and blah, 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 blah. And I said, if I would have said that back years ago, it would have looked like you would have gone, oh, you're just defending yourself. I said, now I look back on it and I go, I could have said this back then, but I didn't want to come across as somebody who, I said, now that years have passed and our friend has been exonerated, not exonerated, is that the right word to use? The whole thing was dismissed with prejudice. He did not do this. I said, let's revisit that for 2 seconds and I'll answer some of your charges here. And I said, as far as the fedoras, I said, made by a good friend of mine who is a disabled firefighter who started this business over 15 years ago, making hats because he was disabled. And John Penman. So blah, blah, blah. That's something interesting that happened this week. When you start revisiting old bullshit like that, I didn't have to say anything. But this smarmy little hippie bastard, God, I sound like an old guy when I do that. Little hippie, get off my lawn, cut your hair. That's not how I'm saying it. Idiot. And everybody's like, yeah. And I'm like, you people don't know shit. How does it feel now that everything you've been saying, you find he was dismissed with prejudice and found not guilty and blah, blah, blah. How does that feel? Does he feel stupid yet? I said, I told you were stupid 6 years ago. Hope you're feeling it now. Exactly, Morgan Snow. So anyway, there's that. And how's it going over there on Instagram or over on Facebook, those of you who are listening? Good to have you here. So my daughters, as I mentioned, they are down. I don't know if I mentioned it here already this morning, but they're down in, yeah, I did, because I talked about their building in Lincolnton, North Carolina, just less than an hour outside of Charlotte. That's where they moved to from Asheville. They used to live in Asheville. They brought their Finfolk mermaid tail business to Asheville way back in like 2015. And I think in a couple of years later, they moved it up to Charlotte, in the vicinity around there. And my daughter has sent me all kinds of things on this in our little family chat. She said they have no power, no internet at home, but they go to Lincolnton to the warehouse and they've got fiber optics there. And so their internet's up there. There was a dam release. And she said this is the potential flood zone for the dam release, and that's Bryn and Zach's neighborhood. Right inside this graphic that she gave me. They are right on the edge of the dam flood release. Oof. And did not hit them, which is a good thing. But it's really affecting everybody down there. It's a major disaster zone. Even in Charlotte, where they live. So, which is far and away from the major damage in Asheville. So, if Abby and Bryn, I don't think they're listening this morning. I don't think they have any way to listen this morning, unless it's on their phones. I don't know if they have power at the warehouse and the studios, but they do have fiber optics, she said. So I think they must have power there. So, Elessa has to go to the game, the Vikings game today. Hugs to the family, prayers to the girls and Zach. Indeed. So, yeah, my son is going to a Vikings game party at one of his friends' house. And so everybody's, well, not everybody. Rowan's going to a baseball game. So, school baseball game. So, there you go. I'm kind of tapped on some of those topics. Field guy, how you doing? Who dat? He says. So, welcome to the show. Packers. Yeah, it's the big Vikings-Packer game. So, yeah, here in Wisconsin, we're supposed to say it's the Packers game. It's the Vikings game in Minnesota. So, just across the river, where my allegiances lie, football-wise, NFL-wise. So, what's on your minds? You can all call in. I posted the link. Here it is again. If you want to call in. I am going to take a 1-minute break. Just so I can take the pills I forgot to take this morning. Yeah, this is my pill box. You want to see what I got to take every day? Maybe this pales compared to some of you. But there's the handful I got to take every morning. And there's another smaller handful for the evening. So I'm going to take these now. But I am going to do it while we're out on a little break. 1 minute. That's all we got here. So all of you sit back for a minute. I'll be right back.
Are you looking for a really awesome and amazing graphic designer? How about an illustrator or a photographer? This is Raini Roberts, and I wanted to tell you how you can get my designer, illustrator husband, Scotty Roberts, to work for you on your project. Do you have an awesome self-published book but no cover, or even worse, a cover that really sucks? Do you need a kick-ass logo for your company or some f***ing awesome graphic designs for your ads or website? Then get in touch with my husband for the best f***ing awesome kick-ass design and illustration. He knows his stuff, and he's been at this for more years than I've been alive. Go to ScottAllenRoberts.com. That's Scott with 2 T's, ALANROBERTS.com to take a look at his online portfolio of work, or call 651-468-8115. Now go out and kick some ass with some kick-ass graphic design.
Hi, my dad. So he can take me to Disneyland.
I still love that ad with Rowan at the end. Rowan, who is here, she's going to be 13 very soon. Well, not too soon, 2 months away. And that was her when she was 4, recording that with Rainey. And Morgan Snow, have I ever watched Dark Sails? Yes, I have. I loved that series. And I didn't know it right away. I didn't catch it from the very beginning. I got into it a little later, and I went back and saw some of the earlier episodes, and then I watched it to its bitter end. I didn't realize at first that it was a retelling of the origins of all the characters that you find in Treasure Island by Robert Louis Stevenson. It's a very good series. Yeah, Morgan Snow, I loved it. Are you watching that right now, or have you watched it before? What prompted that particular question? Because yes, I loved that series. I found it really cool. So, what else is going on, folks? It's 10:23 here. I've kind of said my piece this morning. I don't need to drag this out till its bitter end at 11 a.m. my time, 40 minutes from now, 37. So we can all go and just enjoy our days, unless you guys want to talk about something. Oh, Morgan Snow says just finished binge watching. Yeah, a great series, huh? I enjoyed that series very much. I almost want to watch it again. It's been a few years. One series I have not watched. I've caught a couple of episodes and just couldn't get into it. And everybody thought, surely you watch it. It was Game of Thrones. It was just, I never had time to sit down and watch it at the time it was out. And I've tried a couple of times to back watch it. And I get through a half an episode and something distracts me and I got to go. And so that's another one of those I've never watched. I just signed up for Vet TV, VET, vet as in veteran, not animal doctor, Vet TV. And I saw some ads and it was some pretty funny stuff. Shows and a network put together by veterans. And there's probably some serious stuff in there. Everything I've seen so far is the light-sided, hardcore comedy. I mean, you don't want to let kids watch this stuff. I'm watching one about guys in Afghanistan. Oh, you watched that with your son before he enlisted? Vet TV? Yeah, that's the only thing I've seen so far is Grunt Life, is it called? It's about Marines stationed at a post in Afghanistan and the antics of their daily lives and the murderous, some of it, the cold-blooded stuff that's wrapped into black comedy, sexual, highly sexual. But, you would think if I was a pure at heart person that I go, oh, I cannot watch that. I enjoyed it for the comic aspects of it, but we'll see how it goes. Oh, Game of Thrones. Yeah. I have not watched Game of Thrones. One of these days. There's other series I've watched that I've really enjoyed. Recent series, I mean, other than the classics, of course. So, hey, Susie Q. Good to see you. So here we are. We're approaching 10:30. And I think we're going to wrap for today because I've got things to do. I got to get my son motivated to get the lawn mowed, which we've been trying to get him to do for the last week. And every day he's got like friends over, he's doing stuff. And so it's like, son, he asked last night, can I go to this Vikings game party? I said, if you are up by 10 o'clock mowing the grass, yeah. I said, you got to get stuff done. We're pretty lenient on that, but you got to get your butt in gear. So I promised him I'd wake him up. if he's not up already doing it. So how about this? Let's wrap the show for today. Thank you for being here in our non-show. This is a non-show show. This is not the Intrepid radio program, which you can catch Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 9 p.m. Maybe we'll be doing a Robertson this week on Tuesday at 4 p.m. These are all Central times. We haven't for the last 2 weeks. The last show Wendy and I did, we talked about the Great Fire of England. And we talk about a lot of relationship stuff, things like that. So we'll see what's going on. She's been kind of, I think because I was healing from my eyes, I've been doing these shows, but I think she's been very light-handed with me about this because she knows that life is weird. So there we go. What did Roger Rabbit say? I have a moment of personal pride to share. Yesterday, I officially opened my private disc golf. Say that correctly. My private dick golf course. My private disc golf course. Played around with 5 of my closest disc golf buddies for the inaugural round. It was a good day. Now, is this going to be open to the public? It's like you come in and you pay your gate fee or something and you do your thing. Roger says, have a great rest of the day, everyone. Thanks for sharing the updates today, Scotty. You're welcome if you're already gone. And as Morgan Snow says, congrats to you, Roger Rabbit. I hope this works very well for you. All right, folks, that's it. That's all we got. We're going to get out of here. So be here on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 9 p.m. for the official show. And we'll just take it from there. I hope everything's going well for you today. Have a good rest of your day and enjoy your Sunday, and we'll see you tomorrow. Live long and prosper.